Hey guys, so a lot of people on the interweb have been wanting me ever so badly to do this draw my life thing. So basically throughout this video of me explaining myself and where I come from, I'm also just going to be recalling memorable experiences in my life that I would say have made me the person I am today. So I hope this isn't boring, and I hope you enjoy. Draw My Life by a kid who has spiky hair and likes to call himself a bird. So it all began when a Filipino man and a Filipino woman asked a stork to bring them a lovely baby boy whose destiny was to become a doctor, or a lawyer, or someone else who makes a lot of money. After the first one, aka my older brother, didn't meet their standards. Joking. Anyways, they named this boy Bertrand. Yes, this is my actual real name. It's a French name and it means glorious raven, believe it or not. But if you and I were ever to meet face to face, I'd probably introduce myself to you as Randy, just to minimize complications. I grew up and attended preschool in Manila, Philippines. My parents said that I was a brat child, but that's a given. Seriously, I was always getting into trouble, because it's fun getting into trouble, and usually always got hurt in the process of getting into trouble. I remember that one time my mom and I were riding a Filipino tricycle on our way to my uncle's, and Filipino tricycles are one of the most popular means of transportation in the Philippines. Around then, I think I was 3, and I remember the tricycle was slowing down, and these things had no doors, so I had this brilliant idea of jumping off this thing while it was still moving. And so I did, and I scared the shit out of my mom. And what do I get? A huge gash on my knee and a complimentary beating from my mom, because every time I inflict damage upon my own body, she has to make sure that I remember what pain is, so it never happens again in the future, you know? In all honesty, I don't even remember all that much from my childhood, except I did have all of my birthdays up till the age of 4. I had at this restaurant called Jollibee's, and Jollibee's is basically the Filipino equivalent of Ronald McDonald. And it's pretty weird, but both companies are actually using the same exact color scheme. Anyways, up until I was the age of 4, my dad decided to take up a job in Canada, working with computers. And a year later, the parents were able to accumulate enough money to bring the rest of the family over to Cowtown, Alberta. Or you can call it Calgary. We have cowboys and a tower named after itself, and other stuff. From then on, I really began conforming slowly into North American culture. Eating cereal. Yeah. The first residency my family had in Calgary was in an apartment building which was conveniently located right across my first elementary school, which was called Sunnyside School. And I actually think that the name of the neighborhood was pretty fitting. Sunnyside. I think the community vibe exemplified how nice Canadian people are, and specifically Calgary. Everyone here is just so nice. Except for a select few. And so after about a year of slowly losing my accent and all of my knowledge as to how to speak Tagalog, I had managed to make a close-knit group of friends. Mind you, they were mostly all white, which definitely aided in the loss of my fobness, or immigrantness. I'm completely whitewashed. My brother and I were highly addicted to TV, and particularly 90s cartoons. And I guess what kid growing up in the 90s wasn't? I think it was regular TV programming that helped me build this interest in all things cool and awesome. And not that I wasn't already into cool and awesome things. I mean, I was jumping out of moving vehicles when I was barely 3. Come on. Okay, so when I was 6, another stork brought along a little baby girl. And this cute little baby girl discreetly made me and my brother and I, at the scum of the house, which means all of the attention that my parents gave, majority of it was given to my sister, while we cleaned, or something. But of course, every princess is to have her spoils, and having this little sister meant I was the middle child, or it made me the middle child, but in reality, I was always just this small little Asian kid. Okay, first big question is, why do I have this artistic ability? I guess I've always been under the influence of creativity. My dad's grandfather was definitely a maker, specifically a woodcarver. And from what I could remember, I was always fascinated with these cranes he'd make from nothing but palm leaves. And so I guess this artistic mindset was passed down to my dad. He can draw John Lennon's portrait in a matter of seconds, which has always amazed me. and I definitely think my dad helped push my brother and I to pick up the pencil and start drawing. And not to mention, my sister is also a pretty good doodler, except she uses her artistic abilities more for her dancing and music. And then my mom, she's the supporter, of course. So thanks, Mom. Also, since my dad worked with computers, his job provided him with an endless amount of scrap paper, which was good for me because it gave me plenty of space to let my creativity roam. But when it comes down to it, I think there are 3 things that have really tremendously helped in the honing of this skill set. The first is was this alien drawing book that I bought from the book fair, and this taught me how to properly utilize basic shapes and lines to create character designs of cyborgs and aliens, and robots and other stuff. But I used this book to practice hours upon hours, and I actually traced from this book like nobody's business. But if it wasn't for this book, I wouldn't have been able to learn how to draw figures at such an early age. The second is this anime show called Pokemon, which I'm actually pretty sure all of you are familiar with. This is pretty much the first anime I was ever introduced to, other than Sailor Moon. And if you don't already know, anime has played a huge part in the crafting of my image. I've actually learned so many life lessons from the people that have never even existed. I'd have the pencil and paper in hand, and during the show, I'd try and draw the characters as they would appear, which was difficult as but this taught me the fundamentals of referencing. The third was a man that went by the name of Bob Ross. Him and his beautiful afro. Famous for his show called Joy of Painting, I ended up learning so much from watching this guy when I was little, but just the thought of being able to create such beautiful sceneries in a span of 26 minutes from start to finish was enough to influence me to keep on drawing. I transferred schools once, and I think I had an easy time fitting in because I was looked upon by the other kids as this crazy little Asian who'd always be willing to do dangerous shit. So here's the second big question. How did I get the nickname Birdie? See, my real name is Bertrand, but some of the teachers shortened it by calling me Birdie with a TY, which I think got some of my classmates thinking my name was actually Birdie with a DY. They sound pretty close. And one of the dangerous things that I'd partake in considered me climbing up this 10-foot high soccer net, then jumping off the top of it just so I can do it again. You know, as entertainment for the other children during the lunch break. And maybe that's also a reason as to why I got the name Birdie, was because I was always flying off things. And I guess metaphorically speaking, I always enjoyed standing on the edge of things. Like a bird? I really don't know. I actually got into the college I'm currently in with my nickname. It actually says Birdie with a DY on my student ID. All my teachers call me Birdie, which I find pretty cool. As I grew older, more technological advances took over my being. Before I knew it, I was influenced to start skateboarding by the video game Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. So I'd say that Christmas 2002 was actually a very important day for me because that's when I obtained my very own skateboard. And it made it a lot easier for me to get into the sport because my bro practiced with me, and I also had this one friend who was just too good at it, which in turn motivated me to keep at it. So for the following years, as a growing teen, I considered myself a skater boy. I had the hair shaped like jubes, I wore baggy hoodies, and really, really skinny jeans, and I made it a ritual to skate every single day. See, back then, my ambitions weren't even all that extravagant, but I still wanted to end up doing something I loved, or getting into a career that I wouldn't hate for the rest of my life. So my dream was to become a professional skater. But in order to do that, I would have needed a sponsorship, and for that, I'd need to make a sponsor me video that demonstrated my abilities. So that's when I started showing interest in video filming. I managed to compile hundreds of footage of myself skateboarding through the years, and I also taught myself how to use video editing software, and I put together this 5-minute skate video that I intended on passing on to the owner of any skate shop that would have taken it. But around the time that my video was ready, I came to the realization that there are hundreds of kids smaller, way better than I could ever be. So kind of self-doubt, but I really never saw myself getting any better. So I never ended up giving my video to any skate shops, but I still wanted to share my video with people. So that's when I first found out about YouTube. And the skate video was probably the first video that I ever uploaded onto YouTube onto a channel called Skatebird, I believe. And I mean, later on I ended up abandoning this account to start this one, which kind of gives you the best explanation as to how I came up with the username, BirdySkate. Now, the anime hair thing didn't come till later on when my brother started using gel products on his hair. By then, I was really loving the aesthetics of anime shows, and I grew up big on video games. So games like Final Fantasy VII or shows like Dragon Ball Z gave me ideas of the possibilities of hairstyles. It made me ask myself if it was even possible. And I think it was my brother who was actually the one that showed me how to use a hair straightener, which is pretty awkward to say, but this introduced me to a new way of working with my hair. So I constructed this persona, and I just decided that I should make a video of how it was possible to get anime-esque hair. I put out this hair tutorial, and it reached tens of thousands of views within a couple of months. And that's when I received an email from YouTube asking if I wanted to apply for revenue share. Now, unfortunately, the video had a copyrighted song in it, and the only way to be accepted for revenue share is to have absolutely everything in the video to be my own material. Now, I was never really musically inclined and never really knew how to play instruments, but I began to play around with the different music production programs that I found online, and started learning that I could create full musical compositions from scratch with just my computer. When I learned that I had the potential to create income from this one hair tutorial, that's when I decided to just go with it. I started making detailed anime style hair tutorials and got into music production just to see if I can earn anything at all. Seeing as how people were actually making a living off YouTube motivated me to start filming vlogs, and before I knew it, I had become an official YouTube partner. And I think this is what pushed me even further to better myself. I started showing more interest in free running and tried to teach myself how to parkour, do tricking, and things like that. I tried learning how to play the piano and guitar. I started writing my own songs and composing full instrumentals for myself. Ultimately, I just wanted to become someone interesting, someone who had a lot to offer. This is basically my own individual resolve. So here we are. I'm just this quiet Asian kid that looks like I might be straight out of a manga or an anime or something. Well, that's really how I hope people see me. I'm a character who dresses his Sunday best on a weekday, who has grown up around creativity all his life. The reason why I do so much is because when I stop doing what it is that I do normally to take the time to pursue this other interest, it's because I know I have something valuable to learn from it. Today, I've been mainly focused on my art. And I'm in my 4th and final year at the Alberta College of Art and Design, getting my BFA in Fine Arts for painting. I chose art school because, in all honesty, it's really the only direction I saw myself going. I had no interest in law or medicine. I was really passionate about skateboarding, but after 8 years of building scars all over my body, it just got harder for me to progress, so I stopped. But out of it, I learned the ropes to video editing. I was introduced to YouTube, which also gave me a whole other perspective on social media. I'd like to think that I'm a person who does way too much, and that's why it's really hard for me to specify exactly what it is that I do as a person, or as an artist, or whatever you want to call me. Because in the end, I figure if you set your own standards higher than you think you can even reach, then really the only person you'll ever need to worry about impressing is yourself. Peace.